And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. I'm excited to welcome back Dr. Velma Bagby to our program today. She's the author of not one but two books this year, The Catch No One Wants. You guys can see it there, which is her novel. But she also has The Catch No One Wants, the homework basket. You all see it there. I'm excited to be able to talk to her about what's been happening since the release of the two books. I want to say for those who are joining us on the Amazon Live side, you will notice both books are down below in the carousel. So feel free to be able to click on those as we're going throughout our conversation, be able to check out, buy them for yourself or for your family and friends. I think you'll enjoy them after this conversation. Also, I want to remind you guys, if you're joining us on the Amazon Live side, if you're not following us already, make sure you guys click that follow button. It's either down in this corner, or depending on where you guys are watching from, could be up down here or even up here if you're on your desktop, laptop, or your mobile device. So make sure you guys do follow us. We have programming here 7 days a week on Amazon Live. But Dr. Velma, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
And we also welcome those tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. They're joining us today as well. So Dr. Velma, we were just talking about the life of an author. The last time we had you on, you were celebrating the release of the book. Now I physically have my copies with me, which I'm excited about. I purchased mine on Amazon, already wrote my reviews, and I appreciate you sharing those. I saw even in your stories on Instagram. What has this experience been like for you? This is not your first time as an author. You've released other books. But what has it been like for you to see the way that people are taking to these two new books?
Well, it's interesting. And there were a lot of glitches behind the scenes. We were kind of laughing about that before we were live. There are a lot of things that you have to endure. I mean, there are deadlines that don't work out. There are projects or pieces to this process that are not always timely. And so I had my book launch without a book because of those deadlines. And so I tend to look at that as, okay, there must be something good about this book. There must be something great that's going to happen with this book, that all of these things are happening before it even gets released. And boy, has the responses been wonderful. I've been interviewed by several people, including yourself, but two of my female hosts in two of the podcasts said to me, "Where was this book when I dated all four of the fish?" And we had a great laugh on that. They said, "Well, we know this is going to benefit so many people."
Yeah.
So that lets me know the work was worth it.
Yeah, and you and I talked about recently on the radio segment, Dr. Velma, and our audience can actually catch that here on Amazon Music as well. So make sure you guys do check that out. What is so fascinating is the way you wrote this book and the way the characters, Grayson, Veronica, how they're able to communicate with one another. I think what is grabbing people, let me speak for myself as a reader.
Okay.
I think the fact that the story is written in a way that it's entertaining, but I think we can learn something. We can learn something from the temperament of Grayson. And you've even talked about several times in our chats that, how you look at Jesus and how he used illustrations. We can look at that temperament, but also the love. Do you think that is part of what is coming through? That this is not just someone saying, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, but really try to get them to see themselves so they can make the assumptions themselves as to what they need to change.
Absolutely. One of the questions I've had was concerning Veronica, the character, being a PK. I said, well, this can apply to anyone. I said, my mother had a prominent position in the church. I said, I don't know why we're expected to walk on water. We do have to learn to swim first. But it's as if your parent is a pastor or a leader. My mother was a leader. She was over the choirs. It's as if their children are supposed to be so perfect, and that's so unrealistic. Yeah. And so I'm glad I was able to present that side.
Right. So let's talk about the writing journey overall, because our audience will find on the Amazon Live side, and we see you guys over there, they'll see some of your other work as well, including another book I had a chance to read, My 70s Love Story. Mm-hmm. Have you always known that writing was going to be a part of the way you shared your gift, Dr. Velma?
First of all, I hadn't acknowledged it yet. I was
Okay.
writing all the time. In my work
Yeah.
world, I designed training programs. My job was to help develop new managers. That's who I was in state government, but still doing it because I enjoyed doing it. Never acknowledged it as a gift or something I should use outside of work. But
Gotcha.
also during my growth in church, growing up in a church, I had the ability to assist my mother who was over the youth program. So I enjoyed writing little skits for the youth, some of the younger kids, Black history plays, all of that, but still not thinking in terms of, wow, I'm a writer. I really enjoy this. Not it wasn't until that very first book that I recognized, wait a minute, this is what I should be doing now.
Wow.
Because I looked in the mirror one day, Cyrus, and I said, wow, you're 67, turning 68 this year. You're that woman in Titus 3. Let the elder younger.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's my role now.
Yeah. And it's a role that you've embraced and you've seen the rewards for it.
Yes.
Because even before you released the Catch No One Wants, Dr. Velma, you told me you were talking to women. You were having these
Yes.
conversations. How much did that play a role in the writing of these books? And we're going to get into the homework basket here in a bit. But how much did those conversations you were having with real women play a role in what became of these books?
It was very key. It was easy to develop the stories because I've
Hmm.
heard them already. There are many patterns that repeated themselves. So it was very easy, just like I think you and I were talking once before when I talked to my brother, who's my expert in fishing, when he began to describe the fish, it immediately clicked because I've heard these stories already. I've seen these things happen already over and over and over again. So it was very easy to write.
And I mentioned that you have released not one but two books. The Homework Basket actually came out first this year.
Yes.
So talk to us about the connection because there is a connection with the novel. And we should say, for those, let me just say real quick, Dr. Velma, for those on the Amazon Live side, I have highlighted right now the Catch No One Wants, which is the novel. Okay, but there also is this one that I'm holding up now. I'm going to go ahead and feature it, the Catch No One Wants, which is the homework basket. This is the nonfiction. So how did the nonfiction come about, Dr. Velma?
Well, part of my role as not only a Bible study teacher, I've taught in the School of Theology in one of my former churches. I'm a Bible study teacher. I'm a minister. I have to preach too occasionally. And so our job is to make sure always that the word is at the forefront. Well, in fiction, you can't make the word the forefront. It can be the underlining message, but it cannot
Right.
be at the forefront. And I kept finding myself adding some of those things. And my editor was reminding me, remember, this is fiction. And so
Mm.
I would set it aside. I said, okay, there are going to be people who want to know, what did Grayson give Veronica in that wicker homework basket, the handouts, the workbooks? What were the tools he added in there? Some people may want that. And that's how the homework basket was born. Why not put it there? Make that piece the nonfiction. So for those who want it for their own personal study or as a discussion piece in a book club or a ministry group, then they'll have that if they want to go deeper and find out what the father included in Veronica's basket.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a bit because we haven't
Mhm.
dived into that. So I wanted to make this segment a little bit different. One of the things that I'm going to keep the homework basket highlighted for those joining us on the Amazon Live side. I want to say for those who are not joining us on the Amazon Live side directly, there is a link that's with this broadcast. You guys can come on over so you can be able to get the books for yourself there. So definitely take advantage of that. One of the things you talk about in the homework basket, in again, as someone who's a happily single guy, I don't think about dating really at all. But you, but you talk about not just dating, but safe dating in the parade around principle and your wise counsel. You talk about what Grayson discussed when it comes to safe dating. Talk about that because I think one thing that we've seen happen, Dr. Velma, and I'm just saying this again as an outsider who just observes things, right? That
Yes.
we see people using dating almost like a form of recreation. Like I'm
Yep.
bored, I want to date somebody. you know,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
instead of thinking about is this someone I actually want to be with? Is this someone who I see myself spending my life with? Do I want to, what do I know about this person? So, what do you want people to know about not just dating, but dating with a purpose? Because that was a lot of what Grayson kind of talked
Hmm.
about with his daughter Veronica.
Yeah, that's what dating with an intent means. It means to date with a purpose. You have a goal in mind, which is to marry. So it's not a social experiment. This is
Yeah,
not, just meeting someone because I just want to have fun. I mean,
yeah,
there's plenty of folks that like that
yeah, yeah,
online, but for this person or persons who are interested in this process, then their whole goal is to discover who they are to spend their life with as their lifelong mate. And so the parade around principle came about from the idea that there are many fathers who are no longer in the home. Sometimes they're not even sometimes they're in the home and they're not equipped to really kind of know what this role is. They really don't understand this role yet. And so, in order for you to have a safe group or a place where you can go and share what your experiences are with meeting someone, this group will help you to do that. And so, I found that in counseling single women, there was this trend that felt that what was happening in my dating life is my personal business, it's private. And so that really moves away from kind of the traditional way of making sure through the father that whoever is coming to see his daughter is someone appropriate. And so it kind of moved away from that. It also moves away from those people who provided us with wisdom and wise counsel, who used to be kind of the senior women in the family, senior men. They are not available. And so there's I saw this moving away from that protection. To me, it is a form of protection because there's some cray crays on the female side, just like there's cray crays on the male side. And so it
yeah,
helps to protect both.
yeah.
And so that's why it's important to parade them around. And we're hearing tragedy after tragedy over and over on the news of what happens when you try to do this in secret. It's some tragic situations out there that happen, and we don't want that for anyone.
Yeah, and I think I love what you just said, and it goes to something I'm a firm believer in, Dr. Bellman. That is shared responsibility, right? Because
Yes,
unfortunately, we do live in a world where a lot is put on the woman. It's her fault, This is, and I think that's really unfair in that we, both people who are in the relationship, the man and the woman, both have a responsibility. For one, to be honest,
yes,
but I think two, to get to know what the person is like before,
yes,
instead of just saying I want to be married by a certain age, who can I find? And we guys, unfortunately, some of us do it too. We feel like,
yes.
okay, I have to go ahead and settle down. I'm expected to settle down, have a family, and instead of thinking about actually what goes into this, let's talk about Grayson for a second,
Yeah.
because what I love about Grayson in the novel is
Uh-huh.
that he is loving,
Yeah.
well meaning, but
Hmm.
definitely imperfect, because he, like myself, says things sometimes he has to come back and apologize for. you know, I saw myself in that, and my mom, I've said to my mom, you know what? And a lot of times, I think in our, well, I can speak for myself personally. I don't want to speak for Grayson. I'll let you speak for Grayson. But in my desire to be direct
Hmm.
and to be clear, sometimes it does not come across all the time as loving. Because you're trying to bring home a point in a clear way, but you're not thinking about how it's going to always be received. So, how did you kind of temper that with Grayson of being a father, being a protector of his daughter, but also realizing when he had to kind of pull back a little bit and kind of change his approach?
Well, remember, Grayson is modeled after my husband. So you just described my husband in yourself. There were moments when I would say, remember, these are girls.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember, these are girls. And so their emotional, their feelings, all of that, where my husband was direct, they appreciate his directives now because they know that if they go to him with
yeah.
an issue or a problem, they know that he's not gonna sugarcoat anything. They
Hmm.
will get the truth. And so they
Yeah,
appreciate that. And so I think that's where it came from because he had to learn to temper it because of the girls he was raising
yeah,
who were fragile, who were emotional, and it takes time to groom and prepare them as they were growing up. And so he had to learn that. So just because you may be that way now doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that way always, because you'll find yourself making adjustments based on your family.
Yeah, such a great point. Such a great reminder. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, you're watching Cyrus Represents here on Amazon Live. Appreciate you guys joining us up there on the Amazon Live side. If you guys have any questions or comments for Dr. Velma, feel free to be able to put those in. I also want to remind you guys that you can be able to click below to be able to get any of the books that we are discussing here with Dr. Velma. Of course, I have in my hand right now The Catch No One Wants, which is the novel. Here I have The Catch No One Wants, The Homework Basket. Both of them are the first two books you'll find there on the carousel there on the Amazon Live side. So I want to ask you about the fish, because we talked about earlier about you just being an illustrator, right? And being great with illustrations and being able to use those examples. Talk to us about the idea of the fish and how that kind of came about.
Well, initially, it was from a message my husband was preaching a year prior to my beginning the writing of this book. And I heard the statement that he made. He was talking about a different topic, but he paused for a moment and spoke to the single women. And he said, look, if the fish aren't biting, it's time to change the bait. It's time to change the bait. And when he said those words, I said, wow, that's a book. And I wrote it down and I began write. I even had a book cover with that message designed as I began writing. But as I began writing the book, I realized that wasn't going to be the cover. It's a message, but it wasn't the cover and the focus of the book. And so I knew that the book was going to consist of fish. And again, sometimes you have to use what Jesus used in his storytelling methods. He used things that people were familiar with. And I remember one lady said, man, there's a reason why I didn't like eating catfish. Now I understand why I shouldn't date a catfish. Just using those analogies really has resonated with a lot of women. So from that is where I knew I was to write about fish, and talking with my brother, getting the idea of the type of fish he enjoyed. The four fish, the wrong guys, were the top four that my brother mentioned was his favorite fish to catch. And I said, why? What is it about the personality of the fish? And that's how I got the stories. I mean, it was just a perfect match
Yeah.
with what I needed to talk about.
And in chapter 8 of the novel, The Catch No One Wants, there's a
Mhm.
great exchange with Grayson and Veronica, where after Grayson has shared with the story about him being Mr. Goldfish and his relationship with Veronica's mother, and how she really got that and she appreciated it. And I think that this also brings home a point, too, even in a novel, Dr. Baum. I think this point comes across loud and clear, and that is a lot of times we don't know what we want, but we
Mhm.
recognize it when we see it. and
Absolutely.
and to Veronica's point to her father, she's like, "Oh yeah, I recognize that. Once you were
Mhm.
talking about this, I recognized it." Hello to Tamika over there on the Facebook side. So talk about that, because I think is that one of the part of the conversation that you've been having about this book is that a lot of times as you're talking about these different type of fish, it may not ring a bell. But when you start talking about the characteristics, that's
Mhm.
when people start to get it. Is that what you're finding also?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they're now referring to the catfish. I'm not going to date a bottom feeder. I don't
Hmm.
want a fish that eats garbage. When they talk about the sturgeon who likes to nibble everywhere he goes, I'm keeping an eye out. That's not someone I want. And the salmon who's non-committal, doesn't want to commit at all. That's just his thing. He's not interested. Leave him alone. Why
Yeah.
date one and then assume that you can change him? And that's another
Yes.
uh, issue that I found common among women is they feel
Yeah.
that they can get this man and then change him, and you just cannot.
Yeah. And we guys being real, we guys we do it too. And I think too that's why the open communication is so important. That being truthful with one another is so important, because you don't end up being in a situation like we first find Veronica, where you're questioning, you're uncertain, you're not clear as to what's happening. I think after reading a book like this, and that's one of the things I love about fiction, though, Dr. Velma, is that a lot of
Mhm.
times I tell people the fiction gives us the truth of the world that we live in, right?
Mhm.
And it does it in a safer space where you don't feel like someone's accusing you personally, where someone's attacking you. You're
Yeah.
just able to talk about these characters, what they're doing and not doing, and then say, well, I don't want to be like that character. I want to be
Right.
like this character. What is your hope? You mentioned book clubs, and of course, there are a lot of discussion groups online. What is your hope that this movement does when it comes to both the novel as well as the homework basket?
I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier, and that is that the stories and the tips will resonate with those who are out there in the dating field. I hope that that's what it does. I hope that it draws more conversation. I hope that it develops more discussion groups to go back and look at some of the things we talked about, because they're great tips. And in this day and time, we just really need to go back to dating safely and understanding that, again, as I said earlier, this is not a dating experiment. If you're really serious about discovering the mate that God has for you, then it's time for you to get serious about preparing yourself for that. Let's talk about it. Let's have more dialogue around it. And so I'm hoping that's what's going to happen with this book.
And I think too, if I could just add again as a reader, Dr. Bama, making sure that's what the other person wants too. I
Yes.
mean, we can't be in a relationship with ourselves. And I think if we are under the impression something is bigger than it actually is for the other person, we're going to always be disappointed. And I think that's why communication is definitely so important. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been our guest. Make sure you guys on the Amazon Live side pick up the Catch No One Wants, as well as the Catch No One Wants homework basket. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it there on the Amazon Live side. Also, the other books that you find there too, including Dr. Velma's own story, you guys can see there. I'm going to highlight it, My 70s Love Story as well. Make sure you guys pick that up as well. And Dr. Velma, let them know how they can stay connected with you.
Oh, sure. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. They can reach me there. They can go to my website to connect to drvelma.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. Did I mention LinkedIn? Oh, and Twitter.
Yeah.
So they can reach me on any of the media sites.
And we have you actually tagged, Dr. Bam. I forgot to mention it to you, actually on Twitter. So this is broadcasting live on
Oh,
Twitter, and we actually
cool.
tagged you there. We tagged you there,
Awesome.
so they can just make sure that you guys click up there. If you guys are watching us on Twitter now, click up there. You'll be able to just click on her name there. Make sure you guys are following her. Dr. Bam, another great conversation with you. Looking forward to continuing these, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank
And
you,
we thank you
Cyrus.
all for watching. You're more than welcome. And we thank you all for watching another great episode of Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. Today's show is being powered by BiteCool, and Amazon wanted to make sure I let you guys know that the BiteCool Windows 10 Pro by BiteCool is on sale right now. You guys can get it for only $279 if you guys are in the market for a laptop. This is a really good one to be able to get. It allows you to be able to easily be able to do streaming if you guys are into gaming, that kind of thing. It is perfect for that. I've been using it now for the years that I've been on Amazon Live. No problems whatsoever. Really clear picture as well. And even though it is the Windows 10 Pro, it does come with a free upgrade to Windows 11, which makes it another great deal. But again, this is the BiteCool Windows 10 Pro laptop. Again, it's on sale right now for $279. Also want to remind you that Dr. Velma's books are also available on Kindle as well. And the Kindle, the Fire 7, is actually on sale right now for $49.99. I actually have her book, My 70s Love Story, on my Kindle. My Kindle has over 300 books on it. I also have my music from my Amazon Music. And I'm able to use my popular apps on there as well, like IMDb TV, as well as YouTube on there as well. You can even be able to this particular Fire 7 tablet, you can even be able to attach a keyboard to it, a mouse, be able to use it to as a mini computer itself. But a really great deal on that right now for $49.99 if you guys are in the market for a Kindle. A great way to be able to have your books on the go, your music on the go as you're going as well. I want to once again thank Dr. Velma Bagby for being with us today, for talking with us about our books. I really enjoyed these. As I mentioned, I've already written my reviews for both books, both the novel, The Catch No One Wants, you guys can see it there, and also the nonfiction book, The Catch No One Wants Homework Basket. Definitely, if you guys are joining us on the Amazon Live side, be able to click below. You can be able to get the books there. If you guys are not joining us again directly on Amazon, there is a link that will take you over to Amazon. You guys can get the books there for yourself. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you all so much for watching Cyrus Webb Presents. You all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon.